Welcome to PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I'm joined today. Oh boy. I'm joined today by a friend that I did the math earlier today. I think we've known each other for 16 years. I think we
Wow.
met in 2005.
2005. So, okay. I'm trying to think how old I would be in 2005. Maybe like 23.
You're a little bit old. You're like a year older than me or something, right? But we were both still in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with Peter Marsh, or Anchor Pete, as the kids call him. That's what the kids on the street call him.
That's right. That's right. My own kids, actually. My daughter puts on my hat sometimes and says, I'm Anchor Pete.
Anchor Pete has a YouTube channel, Anchor Pete, where if you like PCMC, you're gonna love Anchor Pete stuff because it's like you've been doing live reactions of Superman,
Superman and Lois.
Superman Lois, and you started doing Falcon and the other one.
Right. The Falcon and the Winter
I'm
Soldier.
so not with the Marvel TV stuff.
No, yeah, it's fine. We did the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Before this, we did WandaVision. It was me and my friend Brian.
Yeah.
When it's Superman and Lois, it's my daughter Pepper and Pepper is 10 years old.
Which is very charming. And I
Thank
think
you.
a child's perspective on Superman is good because hot take, I think Superman should be nice and smile. Come at me, fucking Snyder fans. All right.
No,
So,
I
yeah.
actually really love doing the show with my daughter, but the problem is with the last one, she was just like interrupting me every time I would say a sentence, And when you're doing it live, there's just this tension there. I had to like write on my notebook. I have a notebook where I keep all my notes, and I had to write "Don't interrupt," and I would like just point at it, so people wouldn't see it.
Daddy has a salient point to make, and you will sit here while Daddy pontificates.
I have to talk about yellow kryptonite and its effects on Superman. Can you please just shut up for a second? Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So Peter Marsh, we've known each other a long time. We did poetry. We were in a poetry club, right? What
We
was
were in
a society?
writers group.
A writers group.
Yeah.
We were like, weren't you like the official? Weren't we official in some capacity, or like the only one of Staten Island?
The Staten Island Writers Group, and I was the head of it, and we had some real interesting characters in there, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's how we met. I asked you to come on the show because I wanted to talk to you about some cool stuff, and I asked you what you were interested in talking about, and you had a really great idea.
Yes, sir. I wanted to talk about Power Rangers, specifically the Power Rangers comics from Boom Studios.
This is a great idea. I love this comic. And, in general, I love Boom. I think Boom is fucking incredible. If you've never read Boom comics, Boom does Power Rangers. Boom does The Incredible Lumberjanes. Boom does the new Buffy comic. Boom is, and I'm forgetting other stuff too. Boom does Giant Days. Boom does a lot of really, really good comics. And the Power Rangers comic is kind of amazing. It started in 2016? I'm looking at the first volume, the first trade.
2015 is when
2015 is when the issue started. Yeah. So it's been out for a little while now. I wish it had an influence on that last film that came out, but it seems to have not.
No, two completely separate things.
I know.
And you said that you were going to go into your history of Power Rangers. I literally have a history of Power Rangers right here.
Oh my God.
I don't know how much if your listeners would appreciate it or not, but to me, I find it like really fascinating.
Well, here's what I want to know. I want to know your history with Power Rangers. You as a consumer.
Yeah. Okay. So I was like a little too old for Power Rangers when they first came out. I think like maybe like 12 or 13 when they came out, and that was in 1995. So I would have been 13, and it was like a little embarrassing to admit that I was watching the show, but I watched the first 2 seasons.
Me too.
And in particular, the Green Ranger arc was really great. Yeah. And that's stuck with me up until this day. Yeah. And I think that's probably the reason why I like Jason David Frank so much, who's the Green Ranger. And you can tell, like, with all different Power Rangers media, whether it's the new shows that have come or these comics or any kind of tie-in media, they always feature Tommy and the Green Ranger.
Yes.
So he's my favorite. One other thing with my history of Power Rangers is that I have 2 daughters. One's 10 and one is 5. And the 5-year-old watches Power Rangers with me. We watched the original Mighty Morphin, and now we watch Beast Morphers. And she just really loves the lore. And she always asks me, like, who's your favorite Ranger? And I say, Tommy.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a very similar history. I think I was 12 when it started. And I distinctly remember like wanting to bring my Power Ranger figures to school and my parents being like, I don't know, you're in junior high now, buddy. Maybe I don't want anyone to make fun of you.
Yeah.
And me being like, Dad, one day I'll be a man in his late 30s and I'll have more action figures than you could possibly imagine. And I will make a life out of this nerddom. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember it was in some ways the end of my official childhood, whereas now I'm in my retro childhood. It was definitely, I knew that it was childish, but I fucking loved it. I watched it. I was obsessed with it. I think the run from the beginning of the series to like the theatrical film, the first theatrical film, was huge for me. And all of it, the toys, I was part of the official fan club. I had a huge crush on Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Power Ranger. I know a lot of people did. She was a lot of our first loves, and it was huge for me. And it went on. I mean, it's still on. It refreshes itself. It's a constantly rebooting series. A couple years ago, I was like, let me look up all the titles, and I was shocked to see all the different fucking Power. I mean, there's so many, and I'm so far, away from it now. But to me, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is still something like special to me. I liked that movie that came out a couple years ago, even though I saw it as very flawed. And the post-credit stinger for that movie was Tommy, and I wish they had made a second one because it was like they were bringing him in, they were doing it.
Yeah. Well, like for me, right? I felt the same way. I really liked it when I was really young, and then I just kind of fell out of it, especially when the idea of like, oh yeah, girls aren't going to like me if I'm into this, right?
Right.
Right. And then when they did the reboot, I watched that with my other daughter, and it was fun to watch. But when you go and you see what they've been making in the recent shows are better than that movie.
Wow, is that true?
Yeah, and you were saying like, oh, it refreshes itself. Dude, there's been 28 Power Ranger shows since we were kids, right? And all of them are set in the same continuity except for one show. And that Power Ranger movie that we watched when we were kids, the one that had Ivan Ooze in it, that was in the 90s, that's even though it has like all the characters, it looks just like the show, that is in its own continuity.
That's not canon.
That's not canon.
Right. I remember that because they redid it. Remember? Didn't they like do a 5-part episode where they redid the story of the movie? Why the fuck did they do that? That's so weird.
Yeah. I think because they use the footage from Japan, right? From these Sentai shows. And I think that the stuff in the movies, it's all computer animated, doesn't sync up. So I think they just wanted to make it very in sync with the Sentai footage.
Right. Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is the newer stuff have more American footage? I know it's not all American, but it has like more going. It has more than they used to have, right?
Yeah. And actually, one thing that's real interesting is that Hasbro, who has like Transformers, right? Yeah, Hasbro, Transformers, and My Little Pony,
Star Wars,
and G.I. Joe. Hasbro has bought the rights to the Power Rangers
from Bandai.
I think so, yeah. And it's just a recent purchase, and they're actually going to be making their own Power Ranger shows and movies, and it's going to be completely United States made, or like Hasbro made footage. So it's not going to have any of that Sentai footage. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the history of Power Rangers, it's maybe too much to tackle, but it was a phenomenon in the 90s, and it was, the Ham Saban, who had been a musician before that. I think he did the Inspector Gadget theme.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had been a musician for kid shows. He was like, why don't I just buy this Japanese footage of the Super Sentai soldiers, and then for the action stuff, and then for like the the stuff that I would need to put in English with like kids that speak English. I'll just film that and like cut it in, and it'll be like basically really cheap to make. And when they would run out of footage, they would just buy another series. That's why it keeps refreshing itself.
Yeah. And dude, the thing is that the history of it is like it goes back so much further than that, and it's like super interesting because it's like our culture influenced their show, and then their show ended up becoming a big part of our culture. Because like what happened was, this is all part of this Japanese genre called tokusatsu, right? And so what happened was there was originally these tokusatsu shows that were kind of like spy shows, but they would wear like superhero costumes, right? And so there was this one company called Toei. And I know it's kind of funny. You're like, it's too big to tackle the history, but I just kind of want to throw this in there. Okay. So like, there's this company Toei, right? This Japanese company in the 70s. And they're like, hey, let's make something that is using an American license or an American product, right? So they take Spider-Man and they make a Spider-Man show. Yeah. And the thing is that it was hard translating the Spider-Man comics into the Japanese comics, right?
Yeah.
So they decided to invent all this shit for the Spider-Man show, and they gave him like a giant robot.
Yeah,
right? A spaceship that would turn into a giant robot.
And like his father dies, and he's got like a family. It's like there's no Peter Parker. It's a totally different story.
Right. And so what happens is like it involves aliens and stuff. It's like so different, like you said, right? And that kind of set the formula for this Sentai show. And so Spider-Man was a success, and they're like, you know what? Let's use another American character. And they decided to use Captain America. And so for Captain America's show, they're like, we're going to have a United Nations team. There's going to be characters from all different countries, and the main leader is going to be Captain America. They couldn't get the rights for him. And so they had the leader of the team be the Japanese leader, and he's all in red. And that's why with the Power Rangers, the red guy is usually the leader.
Wow.
Right? And they had all these United Nations characters like from different countries. The main girl was Miss America, which is like a Marvel character from like the Golden Age. And that's kind of like the prototype for like the Pink Ranger.
Yeah.
So that show was called Battle Fever J. And Battle Fever J is the prototype of what becomes Power Rangers.
This is it, guys. We're fucking doing PCMC right now. we're nerding out, and I fucking love it. Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I hijacked your show. It's just this shit like gave me like a nerd boner, like you would understand.
This is what we come for. This is what people are here for.
Yes. If you see a drop in your views and stuff, I apologize.
No. This is the bread and butter right here.
Okay.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's the conversation between two nations, which, by the way, we've got a weird history with, right? Remember, America, the only country to ever use weapons of mass destruction, and we used it on them. Right. And then you've got Godzilla, which is the giant monster. And then like that becomes iconography. And then, so like this conversation that we have between us and them is really, really interesting. And that Spider-Man stuff, I think, is so fascinating. Did you see the Disney Plus little show on it?
On what? On the Spider-Man Japanese show?
Yeah.
I did not see that. There's a little
documentary on it. It's part of this Marvel documentary series they've got on Disney Plus, and I think it's the first episode. And it's a nice little documentary. It's only like an hour or so about the whole process of that show, and it's really interesting because it's made by Marvel, so a lot of it's like Stan Lee's a god. But apparently, according to this documentary, everyone at Marvel was like, "Why do we care of? Why are we selling this to Japan?" And apparently Stan Lee was like, "It's a great idea." So they were like, "Okay, Stan, whatever you want to do, buddy."
Yeah.
So that's fascinating.
Isn't it fucking incredible that just like one man, like Stan Lee, like his imagination, like has shaped our culture in such a way, right?
Yeah.
Like just the idea of like Saban bringing over these characters, like there's whole generations of kids that love this show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're like practically middle-aged men. They're talking about this shit right now, but like my 5-year-old loves it. And like, there's certain franchises, just like the Ninja Turtles, maybe the Ghostbusters a little bit, but like Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, Batman, that shit like recycles like every
Right, right,
couple
right,
of
right.
years. And like a new generation just buys into it, you
Right,
know?
right.
And Power Rangers is just like that too.
Right. And going back to what you were saying about how they wanted to use Captain America and they couldn't.
Right.
That reminds me of the story that George Lucas wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie,
Yeah.
right? Which is something Lucasfilm now never talks about. It's not part of the official Star Wars history, but he wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie and he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. So he was like, fuck it, I'll do my own Flash Gordon, and that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. My feelings is I'm somebody who really believes in the idea of cultural commons and the idea that IP should be free and the idea that culture builds on itself. So I'm somebody who I never accuse anything of being unoriginal and whatever, because I think that's a stupid way of thinking about things. But what's fascinating is in situations where you can't get the IP you want for whatever legal reasons, and you're forced to create for yourself, sometimes you get something better.
1,000%. Yes. Yes.
I mean, imagine if he got the rights to Flash Gordon. It wouldn't have been Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And we've seen kind of what Flash Gordon looks like in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously that's not George Lucas. I don't even know if it's like Industrial Light and Magic doing the special effects.
Right.
But like, yeah, so many times like the constraints of something makes for much more of an imaginative story, right?
Yeah.
And so they had to work around shit with the Power Rangers too. Like they had to invent characters, they had to make these different like storylines, just to kind of make this work for an American audience. And it's just kind of amazing because like it's been going on for generations at this point.
I know. I mean, these kids, like your kids, it predates them by a lot. I mean, it's or you could be a Power Rangers fan and it's been around your whole life.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's kind of wild. But what's wild to me is the original Power Rangers, as much as I love it, and I love its iconography and I love its whole vibe, I think it's actually pretty thin. It's a sort of, it's an aesthetic veneer. There's not much there, which is why I think it's hard for me to watch the original series again, because it's a monster week. I mean, and it's all very formulaic. They fight some putties. There's a monster. They fight the monster, human size. She makes the monster big. They go into the Zords. It's like every single episode is all the same. And so to bring us to this comic, what's so cool about this comic is it's like, let's not think we're better than Power Rangers. Let's not do the X-Men of the 90s where they gave them all black leather suits. You know what I mean? Like, let's be as faithful as we can to the look and feel of the Power Rangers, but write good stories.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's what's fascinating about it. Like, in some ways, the Power Ranger comics from Boom are some of the best adaptations I've seen of anything ever, because it captures the spirit of the thing. Like there's nothing in these comics that the only thing that contradicts the original show is that it's happening now. So like they've got smartphones, but other than that, you can watch the original show and then read these comics and just assume that these comics are happening in between episodes.
That's 100% right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, this comic begins right after the Tommy Green Ranger arc.
Yeah. Which that was like super smart of them to pick to write the series then, right? The guy that wrote this series, his name's Kyle Higgins, right? And he wrote a lot of the Power Rangers comics to begin with, and he like added to the mythology and he brought it all together too. And the guy that's currently the writer of Power Rangers, his name is Ryan Parrott, and he's really great too. And right now, currently, there's two Power Rangers comics. There's one that's called Mighty Morphin, and there's another one called Power Rangers. And it's funny because when you buy them, you can put the two covers together and it says Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And there's like an image that connects them in the middle, right?
What is the difference in terms of these two series?
Sure. Okay, so we're kind of like jumping ahead of like where the books are that we're talking about.
That's fine. But we should say spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for all of this stuff.
Sure. Okay, so for the current Power Rangers comics, which I'm buying, and I even read some of them to my 5-year-old too, you have some of the original Power Rangers, right? So maybe we should just point out who the original Power Rangers are for everybody listening, right? So you have Zach is the Black Ranger, Trini is
the Yellow Ranger.
Right. Billy's the Blue Ranger. Kimberly is the Pink Ranger.
Oh,
And
yes.
then, oh, yes. And a little side tangent on that. Like, I was watching this one episode where she's got like this rolled up shirt and like these like Daisy Duke jeans. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, how did I not pick up on that as a kid? Like, I was like, oh my God.
I know.
Like, the censors let this go on TV. Anyway, shit,
Jason's
I'm forgetting the Red Ranger's name. Jason is okay. Yeah, that always throws me off because Jason David Frank is the Green Ranger. That's right, Tommy,
the actor who plays it. Yeah, the Green Ranger's Tommy.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, you got these 5 original Rangers on the show. At one point, Jason, Trini, and Zach leave, right? Because the actors wanted to leave the show,
right?
And they got replaced by new characters. There was Rocky and shit, I forget the other guys, but they.
Yeah, right? God, I don't remember them. That they're actually in the first movie too, but I don't remember them that well.
And dude, I always know their friggin' names too. It's kind of embarrassing. But like the Asian guy is friggin' fantastic. He's actually one of my favorite guys too. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that in the Mighty Morphin comic, it's that team that has Rocky and the Asian guy and the new African American girl. Okay. And then it has Tommy as the White Ranger, right? And then in the Power Rangers comic, it actually keeps Jason and Trini and Zach, and they are off in space, like having these cool adventures.
So
and
are they concurrent or are they 2 different timelines?
Both of those books happen like they're almost like you could like read the story together, you know, like you go from one book to the next, right? So they are concurrent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they're written by this guy, Ryan Parrott, and the artwork is fantastic. And it just keeps building upon this mythology that was established in the comics that we're talking about today.
Adam. Adam was the name of the second Black Ranger.
Okay. And then Aisha. Yeah. And here's the thing. They actually switch out like her for another African-American girl, like later on in the series too. So Aisha, right. Adam and Aisha are in like that movie from the 90s too.
Right. Well, the real awkward, hard thing to deal with that everyone makes fun of now is the original lineup had an African-American guy as the Black Ranger and an Asian woman as a Yellow Ranger and yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things wrong with that original series, you know, just in general.
Well, it's funny because Billy the Blue Ranger is like 51.
Yeah. But see, like, even that, there's like controversy with him, right? Because like the actor that played Billy, he was harassed because he's a gay man and people would mistreat him on the set, you know?
Yikes.
And then also the woman that played Trini, she died too.
Right, because she did mostly stunts, right? She was a stunt person.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some tragedy too. She's not the only Power Ranger that's died too.
Who else has died?
I don't know if like people from like future series, but not those main people.
Well, at this point, there's been how many? There's got to have been hundreds of Power Rangers, right?
Yeah, because there's been 28 shows. Yeah. So, yeah.
What's weird is like for these original Power Rangers, because of the way that the show was constructed through the old Japanese footage, like they just played the kids. Like the only time they dressed up like Power Rangers is when they'd go to fucking like Comic-Con or something. You know what I mean? Like they didn't play the Power Rangers really.
I'm not sure if like they're not wearing the suits and doing the stunts. I mean, like Jason David Frank can do all kinds of crazy martial arts. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. As a kid, I was totally fooled by it. But now I can easily look at it and be like, that's footage from the 70s. That's footage from the 90s. You can totally tell.
Oh, it's so awkward, the transition. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Getting back to the comic, you said that you thought it was a good idea that they started where they did. Why do you think so?
So, okay. You were talking about how like comics, a lot of them aren't that great, like the adaptations of existing properties, right?
Well, yeah.
The Buffy comic, I bet you've read that, right?
Yeah.
Buffy comic is great because it like continues the show right after the show ended, and it's like Joss Whedon is connected to it. But like for this, it's like everybody knows the friggin' origin of the Power Rangers. They know the main characters. Like you don't need to start the series like explaining who everybody is.
Right.
You know, like just drop us right in after you've gotten to like the good part of the show.
Right, like that's exactly. There's no explanation in this book of anything. You either know or you wouldn't be picking it up. It has such respect for its audience that it's really amazing. Again, because it's like you look at these stories and it's real complex comic book stories that are so much better than the stories of the episodes. Yet, again, to repeat myself, it doesn't you don't get this feeling like this book is like, aren't we better than Power Rangers? This book is like, wasn't that thing great? Well, here it is, great, but through the eyes of adults for older people, let's say.
Yeah. It absolutely has respect. And the thing is that it never gets like really dark, right? I think that a lot of the times when you have
I mean, not crazy dark, but the very first page, you've got a vision of Tommy, right? And I'm holding it up for Pete to see. You've got a vision of Tommy amongst dead Power Rangers. And it's all right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty bold. There's no blood.
Yeah.
But, in the show, I used to be like, use your sword. No one ever uses their shit. In this comic, they use their stuff.
Well, they use their swords in the show, right? But when they hit each other, there's always those sparks.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like blood gushing out. But yeah. Okay, so there is some dark stuff in it, right? But like, have you ever seen the freaking like YouTube video where I think it's like Addie Shank? Yeah.
With isn't James Vanderbeek in that?
Yeah, so James Vanderbeek plays Rocky, right? Who replaces Jason as the Red Ranger, right? Yeah. James Vanderbeek also like wrote that YouTube video with some other people too.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I actually really liked that fan film. There's a moment in it where I don't remember what Power Ranger it was, but the Power Ranger has their helmet off.
Yeah.
And they throw their helmet against a villain who's attacking them, and then the helmet bounces off the villain and bounces back on them, and they use that to morph. And
it's hot.
And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, but it's like so over the top though. Like Zach is in it, and I think he's like doing coke and like having an orgy with some strippers, and
yeah, it's too much.
And then like Kimberly gets married to Jason, and they like get pulled out of their car, and just like Jason is machine gunned by Bulk and Skull.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But this comic has a lot of moments in it that I feel are like almost fan fiction-y moments. Like at the end of I forget which of we kind of focus on the first two volumes of this, the first two trades of this, which is the first 8 issues.
Yeah.
There's a moment where the Rangers all lose their power except for Tommy the Green Ranger. And he's like, well, I figured out a way to get your power back. You can use my power. And then all of them have Green Ranger versions of their suit. And that just feels like a kid in a cafeteria being like, wait, what if they all were Green Rangers? Like shit like that. Or what if somebody took over Tommy's Zord, so he had to jump through the eye of the Zord and fucking fight in the cockpit. Like, some of that is in here, and it can't help but make the sort of fanboy in me be like, that's so fucking cool. That's just so cool.
I think I had those conversations, and then I would like turn and see my crush just like walking away, like rolling her eyes, just like, yeah.
I'm going to go talk to somebody about 90210.
Yeah. And they'll just eat cold tater tots and be like, oh.
Are you going to drink that second chocolate milk? I'd really. Oh no, today's the day where they have the ice cream with the wooden spoon.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was a tough time, man.
we couldn't have podcasts back then.
I mean, isn't that the irony, right? Because here we are, 2 grown men. We're essentially just like ejaculating on each other. Or like, we're like, hey, did you know this? Did you know this? And, if I were to go tell this to my wife, I think that she would just punch me in the face.
But your wife is very cool. She does stuff on your channel,
yes.
And does some reviews and stuff. So she's into some cool shit.
she keeps my channel classy. Like, she makes me watch movies that like I wouldn't necessarily review.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, you actually do a great job, man, because you kind of remind me of me when I'm on my show. Like, you kind of keep segueing back to like what we're supposed to be talking about.
That's like
85% of my job is just like, oh, but then this reminds me of this.
Yeah. That's okay, man. I mean, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through the comic. Another thing I like about it is it has a little bit of self-awareness, but not so much that it's making fun of it. It's not like the Brady Bunch movie. It's not making fun of itself, but there's some self-awareness. Like in the first scene with Bulk and Skull, who were the 2 goonish sort of like bullies in the show, which is so cringy to watch now because it's just so corny. In the first scene in the comic that they appear, Kimberly says, they're good in small doses, which to me feels like that's got to be the writer making a reference to the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they are more interesting in these comics. As the comics go along, their characters kind of expand more, especially when you get to these modern comics. Like Skull actually has like a girlfriend in the modern comics that I'm reading, and there's this whole arc that we're not even getting to, but they introduce this character named Lord Drakon, right? And he is an alternate version of Tommy, who is this like badass evil version of Tommy.
Right.
Who's like half Green Ranger, half White Ranger, and he like rules the earth.
The stakes is so much bigger in these comics. Like there's like, in volume 1 of what we read for today, like Rita takes over their Zords and puts a Zord in every major country and puts her throne where Zordon's head was. Yep. And it's like it's like genuine. It's like, people talk about how superhero stuff has huge stakes, and sometimes that could be a little bit hard to connect with. But the thing about the Power Rangers show was there were almost no stakes. Like, you have a giant kaiju every week, yet everyone's hanging out at like the juice bar in Angel Grove. Like, yeah, isn't life cool? It's like, no, the amount of trauma that we would all. First of all, the world economy would not be able to sustain constant kaiju fucking buildings. Every week a building is destroyed.
Yes.
So there's no stakes in the show, but there's stakes in this comic.
Yes. On the show, there's like, 500-foot tall, like bubblegum monsters, or like monsters that are made out of pocketbooks and stuff, and they attack, right?
Yeah.
And they knock over like a giant bank, right? But then people are like, oh man, I got to go to my karate lesson later.
I know. Would be like, life is a nightmare that is meaningless.
Yeah. Well, they kind of reference that in the comic too. They kind of joke about how like there's always these monsters that attack too.
Right.
And, they just kind of move on.
Also, at the beginning of this comic, because it's, the storyline, one of the first big storylines in the show is the Green Ranger comes. Oh no, it's a 6th Ranger who is a different color, and he's a bad guy Ranger, and he looks kind of different. He's got a shield on his chest. And after fighting him for a while, we find that he's like being brainwashed by the villain, and they save him, and he joins the team and becomes a good guy. And great. Jason had been like the kind of like the leader of the team and the star of the show, but everybody loved Tommy. Tommy's really the protagonist of this comic because they know that's what you want. But what's cool is in this comic, the general public is like, wasn't he a bad guy last week? I don't know if I trust this Green Ranger.
Right. Yeah, and Bulk and Skull have their own like YouTube channel where they go and interview people on the street, and get their opinions. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's like, it's just fresh that Tommy was just the bad guy that was attacking them, and now he's butting heads with Jason and Zach on the team too. And one cool thing that happens in the second trade is that they established that Rita actually reached out to Zach and tried to make him be the Green Ranger before Tommy.
Yes.
Yeah, there's this really weird like adventure where the Power Rangers are in Italy. Because like the president, what does Italy have, like a prime minister or president, whatever the case, right? Like he like makes fun of Rita, and so Rita's like, "Fuck this Italian guy," Finster makes some kind of Italian themed monster, right? And so they send down this like monster that is like quoting Machiavelli and like attacking his like Italian city.
No, he's quoting Da Vinci.
Oh, okay. Good, there we go. And so he's attacking the city, and the Power Rangers go to stop him. So they go to Italy. Which is like every fucking episode of Power Rangers, they're just in Angel Grove.
Yeah.
But in this, they're like in Italy. They're in other parts of the world.
Did you ever read that? Did you ever read the Pink Ranger spinoff? That's all in Paris. The trade has an introduction by Amy Jo Johnson.
Yeah. Is it the Pink Ranger where it's like she's from another world and she was bad, but now she's good? Or is it just the regular Pink Ranger?
I think it's the regular Pink Ranger. She goes around on a motorcycle. She's like in the beginning, she's like, I'm on a trip with my parents, and then she gets into some trouble. It's a real like side story.
Yeah.
But that's all in France.
Okay. No, yeah, I didn't read that one. Like the Power Ranger that I mentioned, I have a figure of her, the Ranger Slayer. And like, so I mentioned Lord Drakon before, right? Where he's like this evil version of Tommy.
Yeah.
In his world where he conquered the Power Rangers, he took Kimberly and like brainwashed her the way that he was brainwashed in the show. And so she becomes this evil Power Ranger. She's got like this cape and she's badass, and she hunts down other Power Rangers and kills them.
That's cool. See, they do a lot of fun things with the costumes. Like, what about an evil version? What about if they're all the Green Ranger? Like, They have fun with the designs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the toy is fantastic. I love the toy. I get a little worried when my 5-year-old goes to play with it.
Like, no, that's grown-up toys.
Yeah, that's daddy's.
That's not kid toys.
Yeah. But we're kind of glossing over this one bad guy that gets introduced in the first trade, and he's in the second trade too. The Black Dragon.
Yeah.
Right. So this Black Dragon shows up and he goes to work with Rita, and he kind of is like this mechanical looking dragon monster essentially, but he's like the size of the Power Rangers. And what's cool about him is that he has this power where he can like shoot a blast at them, and it like makes their power just kind of fall off of them, like their armor just disappears. It's really cool. And he fights Billy, and he takes Billy's power coin and he uses it to essentially cancel out the Power Rangers' power. And I just like that, because one thing that's really interesting about Power Rangers is they have this thing called the Morphin grid. That's like where all of them get their powers from, and it's a big part of this series. And the Black Dragon guy is able to cut off the Rangers from that grid.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he was not on the show, right? Because he's such a better villain.
He's not on the show because, spoilers, like we find out by like the third trade that's just a Zord, and it's not even a person, and that it was being remotely controlled by that Dracon guy I was telling you about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, so like they'll have the stupid villains that are in the show, but then like you'll have cool characters like that. Even Rita, I think, is much more interesting in the comic because she's much more of like, how do I just? She's like I don't know, like General Thrawn or Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like she's she's very talkative, and she'll like gaslight you a little bit, and like she'll like try to convince you of something, and she seems to really believe that she like should be in charge of things. It's really, it's not just, in the show, it's just screaming. It's just a screaming woman.
Yeah. Rita is kind of interesting for me in the show because like they have the Rita that's from the Sentai footage, right? And she is that screaming woman. But then when Lord Zed is on the show, and Rita comes back, it's like a young actress that plays her, right? And she becomes more comical. She's not just this screaming and annoyance, right? But what you're talking about with her like gaslighting, it's kind of similar to like when Elizabeth Banks plays Rita in the movie.
Yeah,
you're talking about. Because that Rita's approach is that like Zordon is trying to like control the universe, and she's almost like a rebel, right?
Right. She is the Green Ranger in the movie. She wears a Green Ranger suit.
That's right. And so the comic version of Rita is very, very similar to that. And it's funny. There's this one scene.
Action figure right over here. I have the toys from the movie. Yeah.
Oh, the Elizabeth Banks? Yeah.
She also plays her kind of queer, which is really interesting. Like there's a scene where she's like, she goes into like, I think Trini's bedroom to attack her, and she's like super like whispering to her, and like it's very sexy.
Yeah. She's kind of like hovering over her. It's like kind of like Twilight, but like sort of this like chrome woman just floating over. Yeah. It kind of sucks, right? Because Elizabeth Banks is this great actress, and she's given this role, and she hams it up. But I feel like Elizabeth Banks always gets like the short end of the stick,
I know. Well, like I again, like that was a good movie. Yet, somebody from Krispy Kreme had to come to her and be like, "Hi, we paid for half this movie, so I need you to take a bite of this Krispy Kreme donut as Rita Repulsa and say, Krispy Kreme." And she's like, I guess there goes all of my integrity as an artist.
Oh, God, yeah.
Krispy Kreme is not just mentioned in the movie. It's part of the intricate plot. Like, the thing that they need is underneath the Krispy Kreme. It's maybe some of the worst product integration I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, like, the fucking... Like, I think it's Zach or one of the Rangers is like in his Zord flying, and he's like, "I'm over the Krispy Kreme. We need to drop." Like literally, they're like saying their commands and stuff. Like, okay, meet at the Krispy Kreme. Yeah, it's horrible, man.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
But the Rita in the comics, it's funny because when she conquers the command center, it's kind of this graphic scene. We were talking about it being dark. There's this part where Rita has these little buffoon henchmen like Babu and Squat. And there's this one part where they make the putties line up to make a wall. And then like Babu just uses a flamethrower and just melts the putties to make a wall.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucked up. And then like Alpha, the robot from the show that everyone loves, he's like destroyed. Yeah. And Rita just is kind of holding up his head like Hamlet holding up Yorick's skull.
Yeah.
I love little touches like that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like the first trade shit gets crazy.
Yes, yes.
Like right off the bat, it's like showing you things that you kind of always wish you can see.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I feel like they use their Zords in much better ways. Because in the old show, you had the stock footage of the Zords running, and then you had them becoming the Megazord. Like, there's not a lot of the Zords on their own, singular, doing things. But like, there's a bunch of scenes where like Kimberly in her pterodactyl Zord like flies around, and like Tommy's like on the back of it, and he's like, "Fly me over here," and it's like they're actually using their Zords in an interesting way.
Yeah, in the second trade, they take the Dragon Zord like up to the moon because
that's again one of those like school, like those cafeteria conversations of what if the Dragon Zord went to the moon?
Yeah, it's got rockets and yeah. And then what if there's another Dragon Zord, but it's a person, right? Yeah. It's
you looking forward to the Scholastic Fair tomorrow? Oh man, I'm gonna get so many books.
yeah, dude. It's funny though, right? Because here we are talking about it, and it's like I remember as a kid watching it when I was like 12 and 13, thinking like this is kind of stupid, but I love it. And I thought that like, I'm done with Power Rangers. I've moved on, and it's just for other generations. But then I'm trying to think of the reason. The comics themselves are actually what brought me back because I go on Twitter a lot, and I just start to follow certain writers. I started to follow that Ryan Parrott guy, Kyle Higgins, and they were just always talking about how great Power Rangers was, and I just got a trade, and I was like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. This is a more complex question, but
go ahead.
You're a critical mind that I like. What do you think the value is of doing something like this? Like, what's the value of even like thinking about something like Animal Man in the 80s? Like, take something that was not good and now treat it seriously and treat it with care and make it good. Like, why do that? You know what I mean? Like, why does Boom even say, let's make Power Ranger comics?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. I think with everything in general, obviously it's money, right?
Right, of course.
Even Animal Man, it's money, right?
Yeah.
But the person, like in the case of Animal Man, that's a writer presenting something to DC saying, hey, I have this unique idea for Animal Man. I think with Power Rangers, it's probably like they got the rights, Boom got the rights to it, and they're like, okay, we have to find a good writer to attach to this book. And they probably heard multiple pitches from people, and they decided to go with Kyle Higgins initially, right? What happens is, like, I think it's probably like the essence of your show too, right? Because you're saying pop culture man children. It's like the idea that like we're man children, like we are still into things that we were into when we were 12, and we're like in our 30s. We try to justify it by making it more complex, making it more serious, but it's still the basic components from when we were 12, right?
True, yeah.
I think it's kind of a little bit of a desperation because we love these things so much, we don't want to abandon them. And so we have to make them more complicated. And I think just to kind of tie it back to I think we had our Zack Snyder conversation before we started recording, right?
Yeah. But you could bring up what was the point?
So you and I were having this conversation, how you were saying you dislike Zack Snyder so much, and I could definitely understand, right? Because that whole release of Snyder Cut, that whole way of thinking is that these superheroes, they should be serious, like Superman. This is what Superman would be like in the real world, and he wouldn't know what to do because the real world
people.
Yeah. He would just break his neck because that's what you're supposed. Like, it's this desperation to hang on to things that we like as we're a kid. And I think that what this comic book does is it doesn't make it go too adult. It's like really the audience that should like this particular book should be like 12-year-olds, right? And so it's like you're really giving this to 12-year-olds to enjoy, but you're not making it as goofy as what we saw when we were 12.
But it's interesting because they're both, the Power Rangers comic and, the Man of Steel film are both essentially doing the same thing from a business perspective, which is taking older intellectual property and extending it. There's value to the name Power Rangers, there's value to the name Superman. But I think this comic does it right. It updates it, not in a desperate attempt to, make us feel good about our consumption of it, but I think because our tastes have changed, because we are older. Whereas I think what Zack Snyder did with Man of Steel, which is a film I really don't like, is I feel like it doesn't it doesn't honor the character at all. Whereas like this comic book totally honors the original Power Rangers show, even though that show's not really good. You know what I mean? Like this comic, I mean, it's hard to describe on a podcast, but if you were to look at this comic, you could easily glance at it and think it came out in the 90s as just a tie-in to the original show. The designs are all the same. The characters are all the same. The settings are all the same. It's just they're writing complex, better stories in that world. Whereas I think Zack Snyder, I mean, the people always reference this, which was Zack Snyder when he made Watchmen. It was like, I don't understand Superman. Fuck Superman. You know what I mean? And I think he doesn't understand Superman and never did.
No. Yeah. I do think that aesthetically, these comics could be from the 90s as far as the way that they look. They match the aesthetics of Power Rangers, with, of course, the exception of like cell phones and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the type of storytelling, if this was a comic in the 90s, it would have like way more narration boxes and dialogue boxes, or like word balloons.
Yes.
You know, so it's sharper. It's like better written. You know what I'm saying? Like the actual not execution, but like the way that the book is written, it's like quality written comic books, right?
Yeah,
a lot of these tie-in books that tie into stuff that we liked as kids are poorly written, and they do kind of feel like a little bit from an earlier age in comics too. You know, because a lot of modern comics are devoid of narration boxes, and there's less word bubbles and stuff, right? There's less exposition told to you in comics, and there's more shown in comics. And so that, like, this comic is definitely written by someone that has that kind of mindset, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So you're a much bigger comic book guy than I am. What's your like comic consumption? Like, do you go every Wednesday? I'm a guy who only buys trades because I'm a guy who has a very bad memory. So literally going issue is hard for me. And I also was into Comixology for a while, where I could just get it on my tablet and you could go through a lot of stuff that way. But what's your kind of consumption of it? Do you still go every Wednesday and like buy issues?
So I work in education, right? So I'm poor.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So I can't afford to go every Wednesday to get comics, right? So the majority of comics I get from the library. And luckily the libraries in Austin have a big surplus of comics and a big selection. Like,
you're in Austin, Texas. We didn't say that before.
Yeah,
we met in Staten Island. You're in Texas now.
Yeah, I lived in Staten Island up until I was 26, and now I'm 38. So I've lived, this part of my life here. But what I was gonna say was I do use Comixology too. Comixology has this one thing called Comixology Unlimited, where you pay $6.99 per month, and then you get access to a lot of books for free, essentially, right? Yeah. And these Power Ranger comics are under Comixology Unlimited.
Yeah.
So you can get like the entire series written by Kyle Higgins on Comixology Unlimited.
Yeah.
So I just basically go for things like that. There's certain books and stuff that I try to get like when they come out because they have just some buzz on them, and I might want to try to review them for my channel.
Yeah.
But it's essentially like what's in the library, what's free on Comixology, and there's a lot to choose from.
Well, let me ask you, what are you really into right now? What's your current favorite thing that you're following?
Okay, well, to kind of like connect it to Power Rangers, that guy Kyle Higgins that wrote these comics that we're talking about, he has a new book out right now called Radiant Black. And Radiant Black is kind of like his way of doing Power Rangers, along with this other comic called Invincible, which they made a show of Invincible, and I think that just came out like tonight.
Yeah.
But that's like this sort of superhero, like as a teenager, like teenage superhero kind of story. And so Radiant Black is really great because it's got that Power Rangers feel, but it also has that kind of like early Spider-Man feel, where he's like a teenager. He's not a teenager though. He's like in his early 20s, and he's a writer, and he's a deadbeat, and he drives like a thing that's like Uber,
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah. But the design of the character is great. It's like taking.
Is that a Boom title or a different publisher?
Radiant Black is Image.
Oh, Image. Okay.
And the interesting thing about Radiant Black is that there is a other comic coming out called, I think it's called like Red Inferno Girl or something like that. But Kyle Higgins is the editor of that book, and apparently it's going to be in the same universe as Radiant Black.
Okay.
And so Image, just for your viewers, Image is this independent comic book company that's like Marvel and DC pretty much like control the comic book industry, right? Like they're the two big.
It's an oligopoly for sure.
Right. But then Image is like maybe the third biggest company. But there's a huge gulf between DC and Image. And so Image has never had its own superhero universe. And so people are speculating that Radiant Black is like the seeds of that and that they're building up to it.
Okay. Isn't Ninja Turtles Image now?
Ninja Turtles
IDW.
IDW, which if you're asking me like what comic books I'm into, IDW is fantastic too. Like just like Boom, they have a lot of these licensed properties.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, they had these fantastic Transformers comics, and I'm a huge Transformers fan. And they recently like changed their Transformers line. They kind of like rebooted it, but for like 10 years, it was like the best Transformers stories ever.
Yeah. You know, I want to make sure that people check out your channel, so I don't want to direct them to your channel, but I almost want to direct people a little bit to your Goodreads. Because you're like, I think you have a really cool presence on Goodreads, because you and if you don't know Goodreads, what are you doing? Goodreads is an app that everything you read at all, you can rate and then write a small review of it, and it's also a social network, so you can see what your friends are reading. And Pete like takes the time to like write reviews on Goodreads, and like I see all the time, like every comic you read, like I see all the time your comic, and you read so much more than me. So like if I read a comic, the minute I read it, it'll say this is what Pete thought of it. So it's like, okay, well there's Peter's review of it. So like, you know, if you're on Goodreads, check out me and check out Peter, because you know, and friend me. Are you still now that you've got your channel, are you still writing Goodreads reviews, or have you
I just put the reviews of things that are connected to my videos.
Sure, okay, that makes sense.
If it's like I can put a link to my video, then I'll do that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. How long have you been doing your channel now?
I started doing YouTube videos when the pandemic started, right? I kind of just did it to kind of, you know, keep myself from going insane. And once I got Adobe Premiere Pro, I was like, oh, I can make better quality videos.
Yeah.
So I'd say like since like May is when I got really serious.
Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up, but I'm wondering if for people that want to check you out, is there a certain video that you'd say this is a good place to start?
So I think that the videos I do with my wife are probably my best videos that I do. Okay. Right. Sherry T. And we just did a video on this movie Lucky that came out. And Lucky was kind of a controversial movie that came out on Shudder. And like, it seems like everyone hates the movie. And so a lot of people like to watch our video because they like to tell us why they hate that movie. And so I think if you go to my channel and if you look up this Lucky video, that's probably a good starting point. But besides that, I have a lot of videos on comic book stuff, and they're in different categories. Yeah. And I have videos on like Star Wars stuff. Like I did that video with you where we did a review of the High Republic book, Light of the Jedi. If you want to see me and Mike in person, you know, you can check out my Light of the Jedi video.
Yes. And we're going to reconvene and talk about the next two books of the High Republic Star Wars era, which is good because it gives me a reason to stick with the series.
Yeah. I actually have been like real excited to talk about those books with you because like I think I would just have read Light of the Jedi and just moved on to other stuff. Yeah. But the fact that you and I can talk about it has made me more invested in the series.
Yeah. And it, you know, it's other than The Mandalorian, it's the best thing happening in Star Wars.
Yeah. No, I think I'm on the same page with you there.
Peter, thank you so much for being here. This was fun. I love talking about Power Rangers.
I will gladly come on your show and talk about Power Rangers whenever you want me to.
Oh, fantastic. Check out, you know, can you give me your plugs?
Guys, just go to YouTube, go in the search and just type in one word.
What's this called? YouTube? I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's youtube.org, right? Yeah.
YouTube.ca. It's Canadian.
Right. And so go on. What was the fucking thing that like all the Trump people go on? What was that called?
Parlor.
Yeah. Just go on Parlor. Yeah.
Where we're going to talk about how Kathleen Kennedy is a bitch and she ruined Star Wars.
Yes. Right. No, but if y'all go on YouTube and just type in one word, AnchorPete, that's my main channel. Yeah. And then I have a separate channel that I talk about horror movies with my friend Danny, and that's called The Lasser Cast. And that's named after the Lasser glass mirror in the movie Oculus. And that's a Mike Flanagan movie. And we're big Mike Flanagan fans. Actually, dude, I love listening to your show. Like yeah. Because I mean, you talk about like, because that's the thing, right? Is that I know we have to go and stuff too, but like I always associate podcasting and YouTubing with this one image where it's this guy who's sitting and eating Dippin' Dots, right? And he's right next to this picture of these other girls eating Dippin' Dots on a poster. Yeah. And he's like smiling and eating the Dippin' Dots with them. And I feel like that's what this all is. Because when I hear
social relationships.
Yeah. Because like when I hear you talking to your friends, by the way, all your friends on your show are pretty charming too. Like they're pretty witty. But like when I hear you talking, it reminds me of like you and I sitting in the car, like in Staten Island, like 15 years ago, and talking about like the Dark Knight or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this all is to me. Is like having those conversations.
Right. Exactly. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, man. It was a great time. I enjoyed it a lot.
We end every episode by saying go bye-bye.
You want me to say it?
Please say it.
Okay. I say go bye-bye.